and welcome to another episode of Some of Our Parts, the podcast where two friends talk about the movies that add up to make us who we are. I'm Lindsay,
And I'm Jim.
and this week Jim picked our movie. So, Jim, tell us what you had us watch.
Well, I picked an oldie but a goodie back from a ways back, and it's this is just one of those movies that every time I see it, I just start laughing out loud. And I back in the day, it was one of those movies also where after you saw it, you just there were so many quips and one-liners you had to quote it. But it's Airplane from 1980. It was just one. I remember distinctly seeing this, and just I know I went with a bunch of guys because this was right after I started work for the VA, and I was living in Richmond, Virginia, and there was a bunch of us because none of us had dates or girlfriends or anything. We all just worked, but we all went to the movie theater, and we were probably half lit when we got there, but it was fun. So, and it was just one of those, and this is one. It doesn't come on TV as often as it used to, and
Hmm.
there's a couple of sequels which are awful, by the way. People do not watch the sequels. Just watch this one and just leave it be. It's like Caddyshack. Don't ever watch any movie after the original Caddyshack, what that has it in its title. So, but yeah, so it's just one of the, like I said, it's just a silly, goofy movie, but it never deliver. It never fails to deliver. So, and I'd asked you've not seen it before this, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I've obviously heard of it, and there's like lines that I think are like iconic and like images from the movie that I've seen, but I've never seen the movie itself.
The
Like, for
movie.
example, I thought the like line had always heard was the I am serious and don't call me Shirley.
Yeah.
Surely you can't be serious. I am serious and don't call me Shirley. Which led me to believe that Leslie Nielsen had a much larger part in this movie than he does. I assumed he was like the main character. And then I was like, oh, nope.
No. And there are a lot of people in the movie that either in bit parts or in side
Hmm.
roles and stuff that are familiar faces, I think, to a lot of people who watch movies, but maybe not in the aspect that they're in this movie. So, and
Yeah.
I know you'll do a great job as always of giving us the background and on all the people, the characters and the actors in the movie. So I'll leave that to you. But yeah, it was. I thought I needed a silly movie to watch,
Hmm.
and this is one that like I said, it sort of jumped out at me that yeah, this is pretty good. So it has no reference as far as the time of the year or anything like that, but like I said, I just felt like I needed a movie that made me laugh, and this helped. So
That works. That works. I think
anyway,
that that's always a great quality in a movie.
yeah, I can turn on the news and get depressed.
Yeah.
So
That's a very easy thing to come
it
by.
is, yeah.
So yeah, something to make you laugh is definitely important.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
so airplane.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So new to me. I could see that this would be like a really quotable movie. Like I think for my sort of cohort, it's probably more things like Zoolander and Anchorman, like that kind of era of thing,
uh-huh.
because I was like a teenager when they came out. So sort of like the like Judd Apatow movies and like Will Ferrell movies of like that era. And like we actually haven't watched any of them yet, but there's a bunch of them on my
Oh,
list from like
yeah.
the early 2000s that I can probably recite much of and still quote to this day. But yeah, so I could see how this would be kind of that for this moment when it came out.
Yeah. And you said though some of them were familiar to you, like some of the quotes and then some of the images from the movie and so on. So
Hmm.
how did you find them?
I thought it was funny. I thought it was like silly. It's like
Yeah.
a dumb funny movie, right?
Yeah.
This is not the type of, we've talked about comedies that have like a sort of heart and can be moving, and this one is not that, but that's fine.
Yeah, I'd said before we started recording, I don't know if they could make this movie today. So
Yeah. Yeah.
there's some things in here that don't play well in 2026 that
Probably.
that they could get away with back in 1980.
Yeah, no, it was like funny and silly, and there were a lot of it's gonna be hard when we recap it because there's a lot of like sight gags and like quick little lines
It's
that we will
just so
do our best to convey. I did at times have to like pause it to write something down because it was just like kept going, just rapid
it's
fire.
even from the very beginning. I mean, all the sight gags, from
Hmm.
all the stuff going on. It just it just one after the other, and it's nonstop. So
Yeah.
oh, and if people get confused, if they ever search for it, if you search just airplane, it'll come up as what an airplane is, but it has to
Yes.
be the
Airplane
exclamation point
exclamation point.
point. Yeah. So
Yes. Yes. So I think too, it made more sense when I saw that it was a parody of like disaster movies because the music is so dramatic throughout it, and it's like the dumbest stuff is happening, and it's like the most dramatic music. It's like I don't know, it's like Saving Private Ryan score with like the hijinks of like a Zoolander, like it's
it,
so silly.
well, if you ever watched any of the big disaster movies like Irwin Allen stuff from the 70s, like Airport and
Hmm.
The Towering Inferno,
Hmm.
those kind of movies, and that's really what it was kind of a spoof of, that sort
Yeah.
of thing. It does
And
sort of.
Zero Hour.
0 Hour, that's the one I was going to say. That's the one where it really takes off from, is
Hmm.
because that's it's the same premise. People on the plane get sick and somebody has to fly the plane. So
Mm.
so and and yes, I watched 0 Hour because of this movie, because I wanted to see where the inspiration came from. So because I wrote that down. So yep, I remember I watched 0 Hour.
There you go. There you go. I have to imagine too that like this is a movie set on an airplane is really good like box office like getting your bang for your buck because everything's in one in one space.
Yeah, I mean, other
You
than
don't
they
need
were
like
in.
act you don't need like a ton of extras in like a crowd.
No, although there are crowd shots, and
Yeah.
stuff at the
Yeah.
airport and everything. So, and then
Mm.
the opening is almost a direct takeoff from airport. It shows,
Mm.
like, people pulling into the airport, arriving and
Yeah.
stuff. So,
Hmm.
uh, and all the
Yeah.
hustle and bustle. But yeah, for the most part, it's either the control tower or the airplane.
Yeah. So it's very contained. So that's why it had a budget of 3.5 million and it grossed over 170 million worldwide. So, good margins. Now I'm thinking of like other like I'm like what was the budget for Air Force One? Like Con Air, Snakes on a Plane, you know?
Oh, good point. So
A lot of
yeah, I
good
mean,
good airplane movies, you know?
yeah.
Nonstop. Red Eye is another one I was thinking of with Rachel
Oh,
McAdams and Cillian Murphy.
that's a
They're
good one.
they're mostly
Yeah.
on the plane. I That one's on my list because I loved that when it came out.
Oh,
And I
really?
started carrying pens on airplanes because there's a part where she stabs him in the throat with a pen, and so I would carry a bunch of pens in the front pocket of my backpack just in case. I was like, I'm ready to disrupt like terrorist activity.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, it's yeah. Look at Bourne. There was a
Mhm.
big fight with Jason Bourne, and that's what he used. It used a newspaper and a pen.
Yeah, Gross Point Blank. John Cusack killed the assassin
Exactly. So
with a pen. So I was prepared. Anyways, movies on airplanes, a whole genre to themselves. Airplanes are a place of inherent tension because it feels a little bit dangerous always when you're
yeah.
there.
Well, yeah. I
And
mean,
you're stuck. You can't go anywhere.
exactly. It's not like you can pull over. It's
Right.
like, oh
Right.
yeah, oh we got engine trouble. Oh, we'll just
Yeah. Somebody's sick. Drop them off.
yeah, we'll divert to the nearest hospital. We'll drive them.
Exactly.
So yeah.
So, yeah. Well, like we said, it this was a parody of a lot of these big disaster films. It actually did, it won the Writers Guild of America Award for Best Adapted Comedy from being adapted from those things. It was nominated for the Golden Globe Award for Best Motion Picture Musical or Comedy and for the BAFTA for Best Screenplay. It did not win either of those. So the movie is written and directed by a team who worked together on a few things of this kind of tone, I would say. And it's David Zucker, Jim Abrahams, and Jerry Zucker. So they worked on things like Top Secret, Ruthless People, Naked Gun, Hot Shots, Mafia, Big Business. David Zucker also did Scary Movie 3 and 4, which Leslie Nielsen was in, Basketball, and Jerry Zucker also directed Ghost, which
I
is
I
was a
didn't
hit
know that.
movie. Yes.
Yeah.
So it was, I think it was like the first, I read it, it's described as like the first like big box office hit of the 90s, because it came out in 1990. And then he also directed Rat Race, which is on my list, I believe,
Uh,
from the 2000s.
Good movie.
I do sometimes think of quotes from that movie still too. It's like the movies that came out between the ages of like 12 and like 19 for me are like really imprinted hard.
I once read it wasn't about movies, but it was like every every song that you hear before the age of 18, that's the ones that you always
Hmm.
think of or listen to, and then anything after that is sort of like, oh, that's okay, but you always go back. And
Yeah.
I find myself doing that.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
think so
about
too.
you, but
Hmm.
the when I was in high school and maybe my first year of college, that's the music that I most listened to. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I could see that for sure. But yeah, so a pretty prolific team of the Zucker brothers and Jim Abrahams. So the Zucker brothers are, I believe, both still alive, but I think Jim Abrahams
I was going to
has
say David is. I was just
died.
looking up his.
Yeah, Jerry is too. They're in their 70s, and
You're right,
Jim
Jim Abraham.
Abrahams.
He died just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
At
I gotta
at eight
say, his Wikipedia picture, crazy picture. He's
with
got
those.
goggles on and like the craziest fake teeth you've ever seen. He looks like
Agreed.
the mask, like Jim Carrey in the mask, you
Yeah,
know?
he does. Or a parody of the Joker. He kind of
Yeah. So, but rest in peace to Jim Abrahams. Very important mark on comedy. Because I think this too is what is considered like one of the best comedy movies ever made. It's like in the Library of Congress. It's all these lists of like best movies of all time, funniest comedies ever. It's like on all of them.
I think is it in the top 10 or no? It's in the top 50 of the funniest comedies. Yeah. So
It was voted number one in the top 50
was it
funniest
really? It was
comedies
number
ever.
one.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. It's one of the 500 greatest movies of all time. In the UK in 2007, they did a survey. It was judged the second greatest comedy of all time, behind, of course, Monty Python's Life of Brian. It makes sense in the UK. A Monty Python movie had to be first. So, and in 2010, it was put into the National Film Registry of the Library of
Oh,
Congress. Should we talk about the movie?
let's talk about the airplane. The airplane, not just
The
airplane, but the airplane.
Yes, yes. So it starts like, again, it's like kind of dramatic. We just see like the clouds and the moon, and we hear like loud, like wind noises. And then we hear the very familiar dun 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 dun, dun the Jaws music, but you're seeing the tail fin of a plane like pop up through the clouds instead of a shark fin in water. And then the plane kind of takes off and it lands at the airport. And then we kind of see some scenes of like the activity in and around the airport, right? So this flight attendant who we learn is Elaine is walking in to go to work. There are all these like religious people, the like Center for Religious Consciousness Church or whatever, trying to give people flowers. Then there's like some sort of like cool looking black guys, and there's some Hare Krishnas. It is like wild to think about the amount of people that could just be milling around in an airport in those
back
days.
back in those days, yes. And then
Like,
how the overhead I'm sorry, the overhead announcement was like the red zone, the white zone.
yes, yes. And then they're like, it's a woman and a man overhead announcer, and then she's like, "I know why you're saying this. You want me to get an abortion." And then the man voice is like saying why it's like safe to get an abortion. It's like,
It's
oh
a
my.
sensible thing to do, and they start arguing over the loudspeaker, and it and all this is just in the background. This is just like the very beginning of the movie. It's
Right. That's why I'm saying there's like so much because there's stuff you're watching, but there's also like this is happening overhead. And then, people are going through the metal detector and the guy makes it go off. But he has a metal arm and then he has a metal leg too to take off, which I'm just going to pause here and just bring up a gripe that I have. It is bananas to me that there are still people. I know that like TSA has changed, like TSA exists and like airport stuff has changed. The metal detector has always been there. Why are you surprised that you have to take off the metal? Why are people still surprised?
I know. This movie's 44 years old and
Exactly.
46 years old,
46
and
years old. 1980, they had the metal detectors and the little
it
x-ray.
it's
Why are you surprised, people?
yeah, it's not it's not a recent occurrence, people. So
Not at all. Anyway, sorry, that was just my personal
nope.
gripe that I had to get out. Then there's a taxi driver who we later learn is Ted Stryker, and he pulls up and picks up a guy, but then he gets out and he's like, I'll be right back. Starts the meter, by the way, and goes to run in. Then we see like there's an air traffic controller who's like waving in a plane with his sticks, and then one of his coworkers asks where something is, and he points to the side, and then the plane follows him moving his sticks, and it crashes through a window, and it's like a huge window, and like the huge plane, like the nose of the plane comes through. It's so silly.
And I think
And,
they slow it down a little bit, don't they? It's
mhm.
like almost in slow motion and the glass crashing and stuff. And
Yes, yes. I
yeah,
think I've seen that
I'm
like
pretty
a
sure
gif
it's
of
a
that.
yeah.
So then Ted, who's the taxi driver, comes to see Elaine, the flight attendant, stewardess. They're still calling them stewardesses here. Um, and we get the sense they've been in a relationship. She's trying to end it, and he doesn't want her to break up with him. And it just seems like he's kind of a sort of listless, drifting from job to job that don't really mean anything. She wants a little bit more out of life. So she's like, I can't be with someone I don't respect. And I was like, ooh.
I know. Yeah.
And then he goes to camera. He looks at the camera and goes, what a pisser.
Breaks the third wall. So
Yes.
uh,
Then we see the captain of the airplane. First of all, he walks past like a newsstand that has a bunch of magazines that says whacking material on it.
when he's looking through one of oh, it was Sperm. The magazine
Mm,
was called Sperm.
missed that, but I'm not surprised.
Sorry, I'm just,
It's okay. His name is Captain Over. And there's an announcement over the loudspeaker that's like, Captain Over, please pick up the white courtesy phone. And at first he picks up the red one, and the voice on the phone says, pick up the white one. And then he goes to the white one, and it's a doctor from the Mayo Clinic who says there's going to be a girl on his flight flying to Chicago. This flight's going to Chicago to get a heart transplant. And like he's giving all these like instructions of like she needs to be reclined, she needs this, that, and the other. She needs to be here within this many hours because we have a heart for her. The heart, meanwhile, as we see this doctor, is like bouncing on the desk in front of him.
And behind the doctor is like a bunch of jars of mayonnaise on the in his bookshelves
Well, he works
because
at
it
the
is
Mayo
the
Clinic.
Mayo Clinic. Exactly. So yeah.
Yes. And then to continue with this pun, the voice cuts in for Captain Over and is like, "Oh, hey, you've got like Mr. Ham on line 5." And he says, "Okay, give me Ham on 5 and hold the mayo."
I'm
Here I
glad you picked. I'm glad you picked up because a lot of people would just, they would gloss over that, but it's just the little things like that that
Yes,
to
of
me that
course.
just uh, that make the movie, and this is just the beginning. So
Yes. Yes, we still have more to come. So here again I noted the music is like it's a drama. Like the music is intense. So Ted keeps trying to talk to Elaine, and we learn that he was a pilot in war and he can't like he's got like PTSD, can't get near a plane since whatever happened in the war. And like she Elaine is like, you can like get a better job. Like you're driving a taxi, like why don't you get a better job? And he's like, well, my war record, I can't get a job. And she's like, I think the problem is your record since the war where you just like bounce from place to place and have like a crappy job for 5 minutes. And like, no. And she's done. She leaves. And once again, the church, the religious consciousness church tries to offer him a flower and he punches the guy that offers it. And then as the pilot, the captain and his navigator are and first officer in the cockpit, there's like a black guy that's like he's like cleaning the windshield like with like a squeegee and he pops the hood to like he's like at Jiffy Lube or something. Planes don't
spoiler
have
alert.
hoods, guys.
You know who plays the window wiper?
Was it the guy from Good Times?
Jimmy Walker.
Okay, I was like, he
Dynamite.
looked familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, then he falls and he's like, you just hear him go, ah, psh. And the captain and the navigator are talking with like no attention to him. And then the first officer comes on, and it is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but he goes by Roger Murdoch. But it is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who might be known primarily for his basketball career. Now he's old, so he's in commercials for like medications. But he played for the Los Angeles Lakers for quite a time. A legendary
Oh
basketball
yeah.
player at UCLA and for the Lakers. The skyhook, his
Oh yeah.
trademark. Oh, he's 79.
Is he?
Hmm.
Oh gosh. I
Yeah.
can still remember him playing at UCLA under Coach John Wooden. So
Mm.
before he changed his name.
Oh, yeah, when he was still Lou Alcindor.
Yep.
Huh. Well, so Kareem Abdul-Jabbar gets on the plane. And then, so Ted, the taxi driver guy, he really doesn't want to let Elaine go. So he kind of impulsively buys a ticket to get on the plane so he can, she can't leave him because it sounds like she's going to Chicago and she's going to stay there.
Right.
And they're in LA. They start in LA.
do we cut back to the guy in the cab? He's still waiting in the back seat for Ted to come back. I think
We do cut back to him, but not for a while.
oh,
It's like the
okay. It's
middle
not.
of the movie when we cut back because I was
So
like, oh, he's still there.
I couldn't remember if he was still in the cab at this point, if it cut back to him or not. But I know that there's a
Yeah,
point where
it
they,
does cut back to him, but it's much later, which is makes it funnier. But yeah, as soon as Ted is getting close to the plane, he starts having like flashbacks and stuff. But he makes it on, and we see some of the other people on there. It's the black guys that we saw earlier who are speaking like jive, as they would call it at the time, talking about honky and lady and da da da, jive turkey. And there are subtitles on the screen to translate what they're saying. Ted goes to his seat and he sees Elaine and there's like violin music playing, romantic love music. Um, I love too, there's like a smoking brochure, but it's like literally
well,
emitting smoking.
he asked him what did he want, a smoking or non-smoking seat,
Yeah.
and he goes, "I'll take smoking." Yeah, and his ticket is like
It's
smoking. So,
literally smoking. Yeah.
yes, those were the good old days when you had smoking on the airplane.
And
Sorry,
then,
that's an experience you never had to endure.
no,
So
I do like when I was a kid, they still had the little ashtrays in the
ashtrays.
armrest though. I
So,
would
but
just put gum wrappers in there.
and a lot of other people did, yeah, until they
Yeah.
eventually got rid of them. But I can
Yeah.
remember smoking on an airplane. So
Hmm. You
those were the
always be smoking
days.
everywhere. You can go to the
Oh yeah,
doctor and they're just like puffing smoke in your face.
I, I worked at VA hospitals that had ashtrays in the hallways mounted on the walls.
These
So
people be smoking in the maternity ward. Like,
yeah,
hey, fresh new baby, here's a cloud of tar for you.
that's right. Yeah. So here's your first introduction to the worst habit you can pick up.
Yeah.
So
The other part that I noticed here is when he sits down, there's like a little sign that says like "Stay in your seat and buckle your seatbelt," but it has like fake Spanish. It's like "Sito in your seato," or it's like "Butto in your seato" or something like
Cito,
that.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh my God! And then he talks to this old lady next to him about how he's nervous. And she's like, "Oh, first time." Like as in like, "Is this your first time on a plane?" And he goes, "No, I've been nervous lots of times." That part did make me laugh. That's like kind of the wordplay is like the source of humor. There's like sight gags and then there's like people being very literal. Like there's a few running gags, like the what is it? That one.
Yeah. But that's not important.
No. Yeah, exactly. We see the Lisa, the heart transplant girl. She makes it on the flight on her stretcher. And then they're getting ready to leave, and First Officer Roger Murdoch is giving his report, and the captain says, "Roger, Roger." And the navigator is named Victor. And he goes, "What's your vector, Victor?" "Roger, Roger. What's your vector, Victor?" Or the plane is taking off. And Ted is struggling. He hasn't been near a plane since the war, so he's a mess. He's talking to the other flight attendant. There's a nun on there. She's reading like Nun's Life magazine with like a nun like surfing in her habit on the front of it.
Like
Elaine's coming.
you didn't have Nun's Life in your waiting room.
I didn't. Strangely enough, I went to Catholic colleges.
I would have thought you would have had a subscription. So
You would think. Elaine is walking around handing out reading material, and she offers the woman next to Ted a she wants something light. The lady asks for something light, so she hands her a leaflet on famous Jewish sports legends.
oh, I just
Hmm.
wanted I remember when they gave out magazines in the covers like that, by the way.
Oh yeah, with like the bit, it looks like a
Yeah,
binder kind of.
exactly. Yes, to protect the magazine. I remember those on planes and also like in waiting rooms and stuff, but especially on aircraft that
Mm.
and they would have like they wouldn't be in your in front in your seat thing. They would
Yeah.
come around and have like a little card or whatever, and what
Mm.
would you like something to read? It'd be like Sports Illustrated or Life or whatever. But I remember that very well that they used to
Mm.
come in those covers. So I guess to protect them because they were so precious.
Of
So
course, of course. And then Elaine sees Ted and she's like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "Oh," she like leaves. She's like, I can't be around you." And Ted's upset. And the old lady next to him is like, "Oh, like you were with her." And she's like, "Oh, I can see why you're upset." And she's like graphically describing Elaine's body. Like she's like, "Oh, her like supple breasts and skinny waist and nice hips." And I was like, "Oh my God."
Yeah,
This old
it's the
lady
last
is,
getting pretty graphic about what Elaine looks like.
yeah, yeah. We get a flashback as he's explaining the story of how they first met. I also like that like the places in the war in the stories are all like liquors. So he was in during the war they met in Drambuie.
Which is
Uh
where I served, by the way. I just
of
want to let you
course.
know.
He was in the Air Force, though he is dressed in navy whites. They're at a
Like
very seedy bar. There's like
like
a
Top Gun. He looks like Top Gun.
yes, exactly. There's like a hot lady like playing the trombone. And they have like he's talking about how there's all these fights and it's like Girl Scouts getting into like a fisticuffs like knife fight in this bar.
Over a poker game.
Yeah, and then eventually that culminates when like one of the girls slides the other one down the bar into the jukebox, which then starts playing Staying Alive, and people start dancing. But they all start dancing like they just like they dance like the zombies in the Thriller video, right? Like they all were like dead and just like came back to life. They
It,
just
it,
learned how to move. They got unfrozen. And
oh, and it was on the Barbary Coast, is where he's talking about. And the Barbary Coast is in San Francisco. So
um
anyway,
he he sees Elaine who's dancing with this guy and they're just like mirroring each other and then the guy Elaine is dancing with gets stabbed in the back and he's trying to like point at his back but she thinks he's just doing dance moves so she's like mimicking his dance moves and eventually he drops dead. So then Ted's like, "I have an in," and he goes over and pulls off his jacket, his navy jacket, to reveal like the John Travolta Saturday Night Fever outfit. So he's got like the white pants, white vest, and the like black silky shirt underneath it. And then my favorite part is he throws the jacket, and then like 2 seconds later, someone throws the jacket back and like hits him in the face with it. But
because he
then,
strikes the disco pose, he
yes.
does the, with the hand pointed up in the air and
Hmm. And then, yeah, the jacket gets unceremoniously tossed back to him. And then they're dancing. He like throws her up in the air and then she jumps back into his arms after like a very long time. And then she's swinging him around by his ankles and then lets go and then he goes got flying and like does a flip and like recovers. Then he's doing like the Cossack dance where you're like down and like straighten your legs and then he's juggling while he's doing that. And then the room is filled with like kind of fog and smoke and you hear people coughing. And then finally, they're still dancing as the bar's like empty and being cleaned. And there's still a couple girls fighting, I think, in there.
it's still the Girl Scouts. Yeah, the two
Yes.
Girl Scouts beating up on each other. Which, by the way, it's not little girls; they're like grown women, but they're
Yeah, but they're dressed like Girl Scouts.
yeah, they're
And
obviously stunt women.
yes. And then in the present, Ted's like, I could go on about this for a while, so sorry. And it cuts back, and the old woman has hanged herself from the ceiling of the plane.
You only see her legs though, so
Yes, you just see her
it's not.
legs.
Yeah, but the implied thing is that yeah, she's hung herself too, so she doesn't have to listen to Ted ramble on anymore. So
Yeah, she's a little over the story. And then Elaine is taking dinner orders and she's going around and getting everyone, "Do you want fish or steak?" And she gets to the black guys and they're speaking their jive and she's like, uh, um, oh, okay, sure. And then she reminisces about her and Ted and it's like reminds me of like the beginning of Greece. They're like running on a beach and kissing, and like the waves are coming, and then he says he has to go back to war to bomb Daiquiri.
which is again the second place I was serving at. It was at Daiquiri, right after
Of course,
Drambuie.
of
Yeah,
course.
so of course.
Um, and yeah, but then, she's like, "Oh, I don't want you to go back to war," but he says he loves her. She says she loves him. Great. Uh, and then there's a little boy that wants to go to the cockpit and meet the captain, and he goes. And the captain gives him a toy plane and keeps saying increasingly weirder things. He goes, "Joey, have you ever seen a grown man naked?" And then he's like, "Have you ever been in a gym locker room? Like, are you into Roman gladiators?" And just like
Yeah,
more and more things that are like seeing grown men naked. And Elaine is kind of like, let's go. And the
yeah,
captain's like, "No, Joey's okay to
uh,
stay." And she's like,
yeah. Joey, is that okay with you?
"Yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, I'll stay." And he sees First Officer Roger Murdoch and says, "You're Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. My dad says you don't hustle on the court and you don't play good defense." And he's like, "I'm not Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I'm Roger Murdoch." And then the kid keeps like, "Well, my dad says blah blah blah," and just like insults Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's play. And then he's like, "Yes, I do. I bust my butt on the court. You tell your dad what would he do if he had to drag Walton and someone else up and
Oh,
down the court for
Lanier.
Walton and Lanier up and down the court for 48 minutes?"
Yeah, and he grabs the little kid by his shirt and pulls him over to him and like his, like in his face, and then lets him go. And the little kid's like, ah, like, scared to death.
Yeah. Um, and Elaine and Ted talk because she's again like, "Why are you here?" And he's like, "I can't let you go." And she's like, "We can't," they reminisce a little bit about the past, but she's like, we can't have a good life if you insist on living in the past. Like if you can't move forward." And then there's another flashback to during the war when he was in the hospital after like this like big battle and accident. Um, and she's like, "Oh, you got a letter from HQ." And he says, "What is it?" And she says, "Well, that's the place where all the generals and people in charge work, but that's not important." And this becomes a running gag throughout the movie. Also, while they're talking, he's painting this picture of like an army guy with his leg behind his head carrying a baby fleeing an explosion. And then it like zooms out and you see that there's a live model doing this. But Elaine says that the letter from HQ says that Ted's been cleared of wrongdoing because things went wrong. People died in this like last mission that he was presumably like leading the squadron on. And he learns that his one of his like commanding officers, Zip,
Lieutenant Zip.
Lieutenant Zip, died. So he
Well,
feels really guilty.
I love how he does it. Because he goes six men died on that mission, and she goes, well, actually seven. Lieutenant Zip died this morning, and he does the spit take with his water. He's like, and it shoots it all over her, and then
Yeah.
but but you've been cleared. You can go back, to that. But I thought that was funny. Like
Mm.
seven. Now that's seven.
Well, actually,
Yeah, so the death toll mounts. So,
yes. You actually screwed up more than you thought.
hmm
And then we see in this hospital wing, people are not doing well. There's one soldier who thinks he's still in the war. There's one person who thinks Lieutenant Hurwitz thinks that he is Ethel Merman, and the sight gag is that it's Ethel Merman singing Rose's Turn from Gypsy, like everything's coming up roses. So that was funny because I was like, wait,
yeah,
that's a lady.
it really was Ethel Merman. So,
Yeah. I wonder how they got her to do that. Would love to know about like that conversation.
I wonder
That
how much they had to pay Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
that's a good question. Because this is kind of like right at the end of his, Or no, it's
No,
like the
he was
middle of his playing
middle of his,
career.
yeah. I mean, he was still very active,
Yeah,
at this
yeah, because
time.
he
So
played for the Lakers until 89.
yeah, so
So, yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so it's things were not well. Back on the plane, the other flight attendant whose name is Randy, the nun has a guitar, because I guess all nuns have guitars. They're all like Maria from The Sound of
mhm.
Music. She borrows the nun's guitar to go sing a song to the little girl who needs the heart transplant, Lisa. And that girl and her mom are like, "Oh yeah, absolutely." And she sings River of Jordan by Peter, Paul and Mary. And she's like really like singing beautifully and like the whole plane joins in. But during it, she like I forget it was if it was with the guitar or like with her hands, but she knocks the girl's IV out. And the girl's like like grabbing for it and like dying. While her mom and the flight attendant are just so into the song, they're like completely
Mm-hmm.
oblivious to like the
Just
little girl like truly like hanging on for dear life,
just
literally.
grooving it to the song.
Yeah.
And finally, she gets it in. The girl puts it back in, and then she knocks it out again.
Yes.
And then her mom's trying to put it back in. So,
They're too into the song, too into the groove. And then Ted is sitting next to an old Asian man in like a military uniform who is played by the character actor who is still alive and still working, James Hong. You might recognize him. I think most recently he was in Everything Everywhere All at Once, where he plays Michelle Yeoh's dad. But he's been in like a million things. Blade Runner,
he's
Big Trouble in Little China, Wayne's World 2, Balls of Fury. He's a voice. He's voice in Mulan. He's a voice in the Kung Fu Panda movies. He's Mr. Ping. He's been in Jackie Chan Adventures. He was on Teen Titans, like a ton of things. This man's been, and on TV, he used to be on all these shows in the 60s, like Bonanza and Perry Mason and The Man from U.N.C.L.E. and Kung Fu and I Spy, Hawaii Five-O. He's on an episode of Seinfeld with the Chinese restaurant. Like,
oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
so James Hong, 97, still kicking it.
Yeah, it
Great.
says he's years active, 1954 to present. So there you go.
He's been working longer than either of us have been alive.
Yeah, that's saying something.
Yeah. So that's who Ted is sitting next to now. And he is now telling this guy about how after the war, he and Elaine did the Peace Corps and they went to this isolated tribe, the Molumbos, who had never seen Americans. And you see that like they're trying to teach them like handshakes. So he tries to teach them a regular handshake, then he tries to teach them like a cool like black guy handshake because they're black. And then like they try to like slap him five and the tribesman like just hits him. And then the Elaine's teaching the women about Tupperware, like she's having a Tupperware party. Like this will revolutionize your food storage. And then he's teaching them basketball and stuff. And they're hanging out and talking. And Ted wants to stay there. He's like, "Oh, this will be great for when we reenlist." And she's like, "No, I want to go home." Because before he went to war, they had talked about like starting a life together and what that would look like. And she's like, "I want to go start the life together that we talked about before the war." And he's like, "Well, I don't know if I can do that." And he says, "That's when I developed a drinking problem." But it's literally a problem because he'll pick up a cup and he just like throws it into his face. He like can't get his mouth. He misses his mouth every time. And then we cut back to the plane and this guy, James Hong, has done seppuku. He is or harikari, whatever you call it, the samurai way of ending your life. Because again, Ted has been droning on for longer than he could take. Or should I say who plays the other people? I guess while we're doing this. Just the main folks, I guess. Ted Stryker is played by Robert Hayes, who is also in the sequel to this. He was on television show Angie, a few other shows, Starman, FM. He had a role on that '70s show. He was in another
Hmm.
movie called Take This Job and Shove It. He is the dad in the Homeward Bound movies. You know,
Oh,
Homeward Bound with like the two dogs and the cat that get lost. He's the
yeah.
dad. And Elaine Dickinson, the flight attendant, his former flame, is played by Julie Haggerty, who's also in the sequel to this. And she's a person that I recognize from a lot of things. She has been in Lost in America, What About Bob? She's the Man. I remember her and She's the Man. She's Amanda Bynes' mom in that movie. Instant Family, Marriage Story, Black Monday. She was on an episode of Law and Order SVU. She did some episodes of Malcolm in the Middle. But she's, I think, a pretty like she's like a supporting character in a lot of things. Um,
And they're both still with us. So,
yes, yes, they are. Um, so they're the main people, and we can let's see who else. We talked about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Um, Captain Over is played by Peter Graves, who I think was most known for starring on the television series Mission Impossible. Randy, the other flight attendant, played by Lorna Patterson. She was most known for starring in the TV series adaptation of Private Benjamin. So if you know that, that's a movie with Goldie Hawn. So she plays the Goldie Hawn role in the TV series. And I think that's those are the main people we've met so far, besides the other ones we've talked about.
yeah.
We'll talk about some other people as we come across them. So then here's where things start to amp up. A lady is sick, and Elaine is looking for a doctor. And because then, oh, well, a lady gets sick, and then there's another guy like across the plane who's sick. And so Elaine's looking for a doctor, and she finally comes across one. And because this lady's like, I think the man sleeping next to me is a doctor, and it's he's sleeping wearing a stethoscope, like, and not around his neck, it's like in his ears.
He's right. Yeah, he's getting ready to listen to somebody's chest.
Yes. Yeah, so he hops up, and this is Dr. Rumack, who's played by Leslie Nielsen, which is someone that I knew of growing up, but it was a surprise to me that he had did not do comedies all the time, because by the time I was alive, he was only doing comedies basically. He was in other dramatic films such as Forbidden Planet, The Poseidon Adventure, and this, I think, like this movie sort of started him on that trajectory to
Yep.
comic roles, things like TV show The Police Squad, which developed into the Naked Gun movies, Dracula Dead and Loving It. I remember that. Spy Hard, Scary Movie 3 and 4. He was in a live action adaptation of Mr. Magoo that I really enjoyed when I was a kid. So lots of very funny things.
He was so talented, and I
Hmm.
remember seeing him though as a young guy, like in Forbidden Planet, and he played.
Hmm.
Oh, he usually played a heavy, or played a dramatic role, and then
Hmm.
this was the movie that, like a couple of other people that we'll meet later on, that Peter Graves is one of them, who never played comedic roles, and people always say acting is easy, comedy is hard. So
Hmm.
for them to branch over into the comedic part, and I think this just shows how talented of an actor all of them are. So
Yes. Yes. So, he goes to see the sick lady and he has to see her tongue, and then she like produces an egg out of her mouth, like a whole egg, and then they keep coming, just eggs. I do like at one point you can see him do the little trick that he
yeah, the
like
the hand thing, yeah,
he
where
moves the
he
hand as if he pulled it out of her mouth.
uh,
But like whole shelled eggs. And then he cracks one and like little birds fly out. Um, and he says we need to land so this woman can go to the hospital. And Elaine, or I think it's Elaine, she goes, "What is it?" And he goes, "It's a big building with a bunch of patients, but that's not important right now." So the gag continues. They inform the captain who like tells, radios in that we need like priority landing in Chicago. Like we've got sick people on and they need to be hospitalized. And then The navigator Victor, he passes out, and then Roger's taking over, and then the doctor goes to the cockpit, and they're like, we need to find out what all the sick people ate in case it was food poisoning. Because they're like, oh, like, what were we serving? Steak or fish? They're like, doctor, what did you have? And he's like, I had lasagna. And it turns out all the sick people ate fish. So the doctor's like, okay, well, then everyone who eats fish is going to become violently ill. And then the captain looks down at his tray, and there's just a fish bone.
It's like a
Um,
skeleton of a
like a
coelacanth or
whole
something.
fish. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like a fossil, it's and he's like he's got that look on his face like, oh God, I ate the fish. So,
Yeah. I was like, oh my God. He did it like a cartoon,
right, yeah, where
like
it's like
Tom and
somebody
Jerry cartoons where they just go and like pull the fish off the bone.
and then as the doctor's describing the symptoms, he starts exhibiting the symptoms, where he goes where it till the end when with increasing flatulence, and then
Yes.
he just dissolves in a pile
Right.
of jelly.
Yes. And the captain just passes out. We're just like watching the captain like go through these things. And then of course,
Yeah,
right after they say pile of jelly, it cuts to a woman whose boobs are just like jiggling all around. And then I like it. It says like there's a sign that's like rows like 1 through 10 and it's like smoking. And then rows like 11 through 20 and it's like two little figures like having sex because I guess that's what you get to do in the back half of the non-smoking section. Elaine turns on the automatic pilot, uh, which is like a blow up doll, and tells air traffic control that the everyone in the cockpit crew has passed out because at this point Roger Murdoch has also passed out. They're trying to figure out like landing possibilities, but there's lots of fog, and the guy that's in charge for the airline named Steve McCroskey is like, I picked the wrong week to quit smoking as he's smoking a cigarette. Stephen Crosby is played by Lloyd Bridges, father of Jeff and Bo, who was in things such as Sahara, A Walk in the Sun. He's in the Hot Shots movies, Jane Austen's Mafia, lots of other things. Um,
he started out. I remember him playing Mike Nelson on Sea Hunt on TV. That's where I first
mm,
met him. He was also in uh, High Noon with the Western. He played a
mm,
deputy. So,
cool.
yep.
And
Again, another straight dramatic actor.
mhm. So Steve McCroskey says, "Get me Rex Kramer, who's like a very experienced pilot who they're going to have help figure this out." So the air traffic control guy is talking Elaine through like looking at the various gauges, and it's like, what's the speed, and then what's the altitude, and then it's going down, and it's the automatic pilot is deflating. His name's Otto, just so you know, played by Otto.
Yeah.
Otto playing himself. And so she has to blow it back up. And of course, the little tube to blow it back up is in the crotch of the thing. So it cuts away from her to the doctor who's back in the cabin giving a full pelvic exam. You just see like a woman's legs on in stirrups and him holding a speculum. It's like, what the hell? What is happening? And then he comes in to the cockpit to talk to Elaine, and he sees her looking like she's giving a blowjob to this blow up doll. And he just backs out. He's like, oh. And then the blow up doll is kind of like smiling and nodding, and then it cuts to him and the blow up doll. The plane's fine. The plane's back in the air, and then Elaine and the blow up doll are both smoking cigarettes, as they do.
As is the custom.
Of course, of course. So the doctor's like, these people need to get to the hospital to be treated, so we need someone to land the plane who didn't eat fish for dinner. And you could see Elaine kind of looks out of this like, but she's like, there's no one back there that who can do it. And it cuts to Ted throwing water in his face because, again, his drinking problem, missing his mouth with the water. And Elaine is talking over the loudspeaker about, like, it's okay, like, be calm, blah, blah, blah. As you see Randy, the other stewardess, dragging the pilot through the aisle.
As they've dragged Victor and Murdoch through as well. So now that they know that there's nobody up front,
Yes.
that was the flight crew.
Yeah, and then she says, "Is there anyone on the plane who knows how to fly a plane?" And then everyone in the cabin is just like, "Ah!" They're like freaking
Major
out and
freaking out.
flipping, like jumping up and down and flailing their arms. It's like a whole thing. And then a guy from the airline goes to pick up Rex Kramer at his house. And his dog, which is like a golden retriever, is like attacking this man. And the wife is like, "Oh yeah, he gets so excited when he sees new people." And this dog is like coming at this poor guy. And he's like tackled him to the ground. And then
It's like Cujo.
right, and it's a golden retriever.
Yeah.
So the captain Rex Kramer comes down, he's like, "I told them they needed food inspectors." Cut back to the plane. Ted is telling his life story to another poor person who covers himself with gasoline and prepares to light himself on fire. And someone says, I don't even remember who says this. I think it might be Randy talks to him. And she says,
Yeah.
there's a problem in the cockpit. And he says, "What is it?" And she said, "It's the little room at the front of the plane where the pilot sits."
But
But
that's
that's not
not
important
important.
right now. She asks Ted about flying experience, and he agrees to go look. And the guy with who was about to set himself on fire blows out his match because now Ted's gone. He doesn't need to set himself on fire, but he still explodes anyways. And the doctor is up in the cockpit and he tells Ted, "You have to land the plane." And Ted says, this is I think, the line that everyone knows from this. He says, "Surely you can't be serious." And the doctor says, "I am serious and don't call me Shirley." And it's like, Ted says it's an entirely different kind of flying altogether. And then the doctor and Randy repeat it because he thinks they're saying altogether, it's an entirely different kind of flying. But Ted is the only one who can do it. There's no other option. So this is when they cut back to his fare, the guy
Oh,
in his
right. The
taxi
guy in the
back in
cab.
LA. And it's just
Okay.
it's like hundreds of dollars now, just like racking up because this guy is just he's sitting in this taxi, like parked on the curb, not moving.
For what's been hours, I'm
Right.
assuming, so
And they're
because
almost to Chicago.
by the way, folks, it was what 65 cents for an hour or something like that. So, on the meter fare, right? It was,
Yes.
or something like that, or every half hour or something. So,
Something. He's
yeah,
racking it up. There's a one at the beginning of the number. I just remember that at
I
least.
know. Yeah.
And I love back at the sort of airport, Steve McCroskey from the airline is like barking orders at people, and he's standing there smoking, looking mean in front of a picture of him standing there smoking and looking mean. And we learn here that Captain Rex Kramer knows Ted from the war. He was also a pilot in that war. And they are not, but they're not on good terms.
No, because he blames Stryker for what happened
Yeah.
at the Battle of Drambuie, or
Yes.
Daiquiri. Sorry,
Daiquiri.
Daiquiri. Yeah, the bombing of Daiquiri.
Yes.
I
So,
got bombed at Daiquiri one time. So just
haven't we all? Uh, Elaine comes into the cockpit and she does not think that Ted can land this plane. She's like, "Ted, you can't do it." And the doctor is like, "You are our only hope." And then immediately after that, there is a bolt of lightning. And then there's on like the sort of the dashboard of the cockpit, there's a little statue of Jesus, and the little statue of Jesus like covers its eyes. There's turbulence, and then a sign lights up, and it's like sit down, and it's this fake Spanish says like go back and sedana or something like that. Ted is calling Mayday over like the little communications. He's able to get the plane back level. There's a lady who's freaking out, who's like, I want to get off. And I think the flight attendant at first is like, get yourself together, and like shakes her. And then like there's one by one people keep coming up to her like shaking her like, oh, can you, doctor, can you help her? And he shakes her and slaps her. It's like, get yourself
Slaps her.
together.
Yeah.
And he's like, sister, can you help her? And the nun comes up and shakes her and slaps her. And then you cut back, there's a line of people and somebody has like boxing gloves and like various like weapons. Like, oh my God. That part I was like, okay, maybe this wouldn't survive in the new version of this. Um, so
You don't think?
yeah. Then this is when Captain Rex Kramer gets to the airport and all of these people, all the various religious groups, the religious tolerance temple, the Scientologists, the Hare Krishnas, but he's punching all of them as he goes through. And then he goes to talk to Steve, and I love this. He keeps taking off like successive pairs of sunglasses.
I love that bit. When he's talking to him and he takes off the first pair and he's still got a pair of sunglasses on, and then he takes those off. It's like, I even wrote that down. This is like my
Hmm.
favorite bit.
Yeah.
So
And then but he thinks that Ted can land the plane. He'll just talk him through it, how to do it. And once again, Steve McCroskey is like, I picked the wrong week to quit drinking as he takes a swig from a flask. And then Kramer gets on the communications, and Ted is like, oh God, this guy.
yeah, yeah. Of all the
He's
people,
right. Of all the pilots in all the world.
I had to get Rex Kramer.
Yep. He's not happy to hear him, but he allows him to talk him through it. They take the autopilot out of the first officer seat, and Elaine sits there. I like he's like the engine's a little hot, and like there's a little button that's flashing that just says like engine a little hot. Like, and then I love this too that like Elaine is like doing the talking to them and relaying stuff to Ted, and then Ted is saying to her like, tell Kramer that he sucks and I hate him and I'm not gonna like he's insulting him through Elaine. Then the other stewardess, Randy, is trying to talk to the black guys and she can't understand him. So this old white woman comes up. This old white woman who is the actress Barbara Billingsley, who people might know as Mrs. Cleaver from Leave It to
Cleaver.
Beaver. She translates for her and then she speaks back to them in jive. So like a tiny old white lady speaking to these black guys in jive.
And then she insults him because they get kind of pissed off that that she's stepping in, and then
Hmm.
we can understand what she's saying and stuff. And then she goes, I was just trying to help, and it's all in jive and stuff.
Yeah.
And then and she just calls them like fools or something like that. And they both look at her like,
Yeah. Yeah. Also, meanwhile, the airline wakes up Captain Over's wife to come in. Because they're like, her husband's sick and like we're trying to land this plane. And she was sleeping in the bed with a horse. I was like, is this like a okay.
yeah. And
Okay.
then she tells him, she goes, you can leave, by the back door, and there's juice in the fridge. Tells the horse that.
And the horse is
So
like, the sick people on the plane are getting worse. They're running out of time. And you hear like Ted sitting there and his inner voice is like, I've got to concentrate. But then it's like, it hears echoes. I've got to concentrate. I've got to concentrate. It's like echoes, echo, echo. And then it's like baseball commentary. He's coming around third. And blah, blah, blah. Like,
but
just all in his head.
now batting for Manny Sanguilla, Pedro Borbon, Borbon, Borbon. And this is one of the lines that we used to quote, like when people would say, like, are you concentrating? And we would go, now batting.
And then the sick lady is like, I'm really hot. I need, and her husband's like, let's turn on the air, and he turns on like the little air conditioning thing, and it's like a wind tunnel suddenly. And then the people on the ground are saying something about the people on the plane, like they're on the instruments, and then it cuts to the cockpit and it's like the stewardesses and Ted and the doctor are all playing musical instruments in the cockpit.
I do
um
like the flashbacks Ted has of like the planes, and it's always these old
mm,
like World War One planes, and then like the early aircraft and stuff, like and then it's just like all black and white, and it's not even modern aircraft or anything. So I always thought that was funny. The old flying sequences.
yeah, yeah. Back on the ground too, the reporters want a statement, and Steve is like, we're working on it, blah, blah. He walks away, and then this other guy named, what's his name?
Johnny.
Johnny, who's quite the wild card. He is like, they're like, what's the plane like? And he's like, oh, it's a big, beautiful, it's a big, pretty plane. It's white, it's shiny, it looks like a big, great big Tylenol. And then the reporters are like, let's get some pictures. And they just take the pictures off the walls.
of airplanes.
It's like truly everything is just like the most like simple, like literal pun. Um, but then like this is headline news. It's like on all the front of the newspapers and like it's on TV news and even like international news. Like there's some sort of tribe where the guy is communicating via drumming and someone like whispers to him and then he changes his drumming pattern. So he's also communicating this story.
And instead of a picture of an airplane, it's like a crude drawing on a mat thing, a woven mat. And I like how, and then he cuts to a different camera and he turns, and looks at the
Hmm.
camera.
And then back for the plane, like it's storming out, so things are still not looking good. There's a guy on the plane who's like drinking whiskey to cope, and he offers some to this old lady next to him, and she's like, "Oh my God, like I would never, how dare you?" And then she does 2 lines of cocaine. She like pulls up a little mirror and does 2 lines of cocaine. And Ted asks the doctor about the passengers, and he's like, "Surely you can do something." And he's like, "Stop calling me Shirley."
Doing everything I can. Just stop, but stop calling me Shirley. I do like the newspaper sequences, by the way, the
Yes.
flipping. And
Hmm.
the best one, and I used to use this all the time: boy trapped in refrigerator eats own foot.
The National Enquirer one. Yeah.
Yes. It's like passengers in peril, airline disaster. And then it shows up, yeah, the National Enquirer, boy trapped in refrigerator eats own foot. So sorry, that never gets old.
Never. Then it's like a lot of this movie is just like random things happening. The nun is singing respect, Aretha Franklin's respect to the black guys, and they're just sitting there like, okay. And the other stewardess, Randy, is really scared. She's talking to the doctor, and she's like, I'm so really scared, and I'm like really sad that I'm 26 and I'm not married. And then some other random lady comes in to like check on how things are going, and she's like, the doctor's like, how are you doing? And she's like, well, I'm scared, but at least I have a husband. And she walks away, and Randy's like, ah. Um, and Ted's still having like flashbacks from the war. He's like, can't take the pressure. And he's like, the shit's gonna hit the fan. And then cut to the office on the ground, and literally shit hits a fan. And eventually Ted says he can't take the pressure and he leaves the cockpit. But the fog's getting thicker and like things are getting more perilous as things go along. And the doctor gives Ted kind of a pep talk because he talks to him about his war experience and like his doubts about himself and all this. And he said that he worked with a Lieutenant George Zip, who said that the leader of his squadron made the right decision, which was Ted. And that gives Ted the motivation he needs. He's like, "Excuse me, Doc, I have a plane to land."
It's the speech from the about Duke Rockney, and it's the Gipper speech. George Gipp was a running back for the Notre Dame football team
Okay.
and died. but he's supposedly on his deathbed. He said he told Newt Rockney that he says, "You tell the boys when they're up against it and the odds are beating them, you tell them to go in there and win one for the Gipper." So, and that's it's a takeoff because he says he goes win one for the zipper.
There you go.
So, um,
So he goes and he takes back over and he's like, we got to land right away. Rex Kramer says, no, like, you've got like 2 hours of fuel. And he says, no, but we have to, like, because he's like, these people need to be in the hospital within the hour. And I love this, like, Johnny guy. They're all like looking at the newspapers and they're like, oh God, like they're writing stories about this plague thing. And then they walk away and Johnny in the airline office is like, oh, a sale at Penny's. And then they're all gonna go to the tower, the air traffic control tower. And he goes, oh, the tower, Rapunzel.
and he like leaps, like through the air,
Yes.
like he. I did put of all the Johnny was the one that I laughed the loudest at and the
Mhm.
hardest.
They're also on the plane, they're showing a movie, and it's a movie with a plane crashing.
The most horrible plane crash, by the way. It's like fiery, ball of
Yeah.
fire thing. So it's like, and
Yeah.
everybody goes, "Are we going to be okay? Oh, we'll be fine. We'll land shortly." In the
Mhm.
meantime, watch the movie. So,
Yeah. Remember the days when there was like a movie that played
oh
and you had
yeah,
to watch it?
yep.
It wasn't that long ago because when I was in college, when I went to study
Oh,
abroad,
okay. You
there was
still
still that was like 2010 and they were still doing it then because we had to watch
okay?
it's the one with I think it's called Backup Plan. It's the one where J-Lo is getting like she's like getting pregnant on her own. She gets
Oh,
artificially inseminated, but she meets like the love of her life on like the same day.
I like that movie. I
Yeah,
can't remember
so
who
I
played her
watched that on
better
the way to
half.
Belgium.
Okay.
Anyways, those days when you just had to watch whatever they decided to show you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, as all the people go into the tower, there's like the pilots that are already there, and then like Rex and Steve and like Johnny, and there's like a ref there introducing them, but they're shaking hands like it's the beginning of like a football game and they're doing the coin toss.
Yeah, yeah. Captain Kramer, Captain so and so, Captain. It's like the
Hmm.
captains of the teams.
Hmm. Pilot, Captain Over's wife comes in, and then Johnny is like, "Oh, look at this dress! Look at these shoes!
That's horrible. And then she starts to cry.
Yeah." And then Rex Kramer, they're trying to prepare for this landing. So Rex Kramer's like, I want every light poured onto that field. And then you see a dump truck back up and dump a bunch of like lamps, like table lamps. And then there's a ton of ambulances getting ready. And like, then
And
there's like cement trucks and tow trucks. It's just like,
and then they tell them to clear the field, and then they say Air Israel, and the
yes.
plane, the plane has a yarmulke on it,
Yeah, it has a
and
yarmulke and like the curly hair and like a beard and like the shawl. I don't remember what
yeah,
it's called.
yeah. That was. I think the only saving
Pollitt.
grace. I think the only saving grace is I think both of the Zucker guys were Jewish.
I think so. Um, my God. Uh,
And so I think Jim Abrahams was as well. So
yes. The stewardess, Randy, is preparing everybody for their crash positions, or she's telling them about the crash position. And then they're flying over Chicago. There's a radio station that's like, we're Chicago's home for disco. We're still here playing disco all the time. And they hit the antenna to like knock it out. And again, Kramer's like, you can stay in the air for 2 more hours. And Ted's like, no, we gotta land. And Ted is like, okay, like we're about to land. Elaine, I want you to leave the cockpit so you don't get hurt. And, they're talking, and Randy, the other stewardess, leaves and immediately you hear like, like she gets hurt immediately
yeah,
upon leaving the cockpit.
of
But
course.
Elaine professes like her love for Ted and she's proud of him, like all of this stuff. And then the doctor comes in and he's like, your only hope, I wish you luck. and he leaves. Rex Kramer is advising like, okay, if you come in too fast, you gotta like pull the brake. And then if you can't pull the brake, like there's something else to do. And
You lower your flaps, give it full
yes.
flaps, and decrease your speed, and
Yes. And Captain Overswipe is like rubbing his chest while he's doing it. And he's like, what are you doing?
yeah,
And then Randy's like, okay, it's time. Everybody get in your crash positions. And they all like hop up and make it look like they have already crashed. Like, imagine how you would look if we crashed. That's their crash positions.
exactly. So, well, she told him assume your crash positions. So,
And they're like, it's too quiet out there. The people in the tower, like, it's too quiet out there. And Steve McCroskey once again is like, I picked a bad week to stop sniffing glue. And he sniffs glue and then just passes out. And then we see him a few minutes later and he's like upside down, seeing the room upside down. And then he's like, they're coming right at us. And he jumps out the window of the control tower. Um, and they're coming in for a landing, but like you see Ted and he's like the steering wheel is like all over the place and he is like and the doctor he lands it, but he has to pull the emergency brake, but it just like comes out. So they're like careening down the runway and the doctor comes in again and he's like, good luck, we're all counting on you. Like again, good luck, you're our only hope. And then leaves again. And Ted is like pouring sweat. And this is for people like me who hadn't seen this, you have seen this GIF. It's like a white guy in like a tan shirt and he's pouring sweat.
like it's a
That's
waterfall.
yes, like comically ridiculous. That is from this moment in this movie. And then oh, in the airport, they're like, the flight from LA is coming into gate 9, 10, and 11, 12. They just keep going.
And the
And
people keep running to the next
yes,
gate like they're gonna, so to either I guess they're all gonna meet the plane. But yeah, so
yeah,
I think it gets up to gate 31 or something.
yes. And then the wheels break off, like the little wheels on the ground break off. And so the plane's like skidding still, and it finally skids to a stop, and everyone is relieved. The press have been watching this. They all run to the phone booths and they all do it like in unison and so fast that it knocks over the bank of phone booths with them in it. And the doctor again comes in and says, good luck, we're all counting on you.
And the plane's already landed. So yeah, it's like
And Rex Kramer's talking to Ted over the thing, and he's like, this was the most lousy landing I've ever seen, but I would like to get you a drink. And he keeps talking, and Ted just gets up and leaves, and he's still talking, and it like cuts back sometimes, and he's like, and when I was a child, I was afraid of it. Like he's just like he's like Ted. He's telling his life story, and Ted is not interested in it.
he talks about like Christmas was horrible, it's like, and he got
Yes,
kicked in the head with an iron boot, and he's
yes.
going on and on. Uh,
And then yeah. They're getting the people off the plane, loaded into the ambulances. One you hear pulls away and it immediately crashes.
you see the hubcap spin
Yeah.
through like
You
the
hear like
shot.
the er, skirt, like that. I did wonder what I hope the heart transplant girl made it.
We never saw her again afterwards. She sort of
No.
like after the IV got plugged back in.
Yeah.
That that was she was like that's old news. So
And then Ted and Elaine are standing on the tarmac and they have a moment, the music swells and they kiss. And then they look over at the plane and the autopilot has reinflated. Otto has he salutes them. And then as he's like pulling away like the auto stewardess, like a blow up woman inflates in the seat next to him. So they're like, woohoo. And then they fly away the plane again. And the end. That is Airplane.
well, you did laugh while we were recapping. So
I did. I did laugh when I
it,
watched it.
well, good. So
Because some of it was just like so absurd. Like the things
it,
you're seeing
it,
and the things they're saying.
you can't tell me that at some point somebody will say, well, What is it? Well, it's a big building with whatever, but that's not
Right,
important. You won't
right.
think you'll think of that. You know you will. So,
I will. I will. It was like very funny and silly. I'll mention there's a couple people that we didn't talk about.
well, Rex Kramer.
Rex Kramer is played by Robert Stack, who was in I think the television series of The Untouchables.
Oh yeah, played
Um,
Elliot Ness.
he narrated Unsolved Mysteries. He was in Written on the Wind and other things. Known for his deep voice and commanding presence.
He was also a world class and Olympic class skeet shooter.
Hmm.
Competed internationally and won evidently won a lot of competitions. So I'd read that somewhere about that was a passion of his was skeet shooting.
Hmm. That's cool. And then the other person, Johnny, the like funny guy. Oh, the other thing I didn't mention is like when the plane was about to crash and everyone's kind of freaking out, he had two phones in his hand and goes, "Auntie M, it's a twister."
Oh, well, and the other bit I got to say is they tore off a weather report off the teletype, and
Mm.
McCroskey went to Johnny. Goes, Johnny, what could you make of this? And he goes, oh, well, a hat, and he puts it on his head, and he goes,
Mm.
or a brooch, and he goes, or a pterodactyl. It's like and Steve just like waves him away, like but Johnny to me was like I laughed the hardest at his stuff.
Yes.
He
Agreed.
was
Agreed.
he was the silly to me, as in a room full of guys because they were all playing it straight,
Yes.
but Johnny, Johnny was like the sort of like the comic relief in the control tower and stuff. So
Yes. Yes. So this actor is Steven Stucker. He was also in the sequel. He they let him he came up with these lines. It looks like.
I can
For the
believe
first
that.
film, the writers gave him like the straight lines that he's responding to, and he got to write his character's off the wall responses. Um,
Brilliant.
he was in Cracking Up. He's in this movie called Carnal Madness, the Kentucky Fried Movie. Um, because there was like a sketch comedy troupe that the Zucker brothers and Abrahams founded.
Oh,
And this Kentucky Fried Movie was based on their sketches. So he was in that. Um, he did some like guest things, Mork and Mindy. He had a small role in Trading Places, another film by John Landis. Um, but yeah, he died pretty young. He died of AIDS
tragically, yeah.
in the
So
80s. So,
we might see Kentucky Fried Movie because I have seen that. And that is, I remember seeing that was a midnight movie when they showed movies like
mm,
that at midnight
mhm.
at the movie theaters. That was that's a different movie altogether. And then you'll see that's where this was built off of. You'll see how that came about. So
Hmm. Hmm. So that's Airplane. It's very like fun and silly. It's funny because there's like not, normally we're like getting into like the sort of issues and the like deeper meaning and it's like
there,
um
I think what you see is what you
yeah,
get.
I was gonna say I don't know that there is a lot
No,
more to say.
no, there's no hidden message. There's no redeeming social feature or value here. It's just pure silliness.
Yeah.
Some people may not care for these days, but I think overall, it's it's just a funny movie to me. It's
Hmm.
goofy and there's like you said, honestly, if you haven't seen the movie, the sight gags,
Yes.
it's just if you blink, you miss something. So
Right. It's like hard, like I said, we're doing our best to like convey what you can see,
it,
but it's like really hard to do that
if you wrote down every
verbally.
sight gag, it would take you 3 hours to describe an hour and a half movie, don't you think?
Hmm.
All the stuff if you outlined everything that was going on, so because so much of it goes on at the same time.
Simultaneously, yeah.
Yeah. all
Yeah,
together now. All together. So anyway, so well, I'm glad you liked it. So and like I said, I needed a bit of a pick me up as opposed to a sobering
something
uh,
serious. Yeah,
something serious. So yeah, so then yeah, surely you can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
Agreed. So
Yeah. And it's a movie that's about 90 minutes, so it's not a huge time commitment. So if you do want to see something silly, this is, I think, a great one to check out. It's you can see it in multiple places.
I watched
Um,
it on Pluto. It does have commercials, but that's okay. So
yes. If you have Paramount Plus, you can watch it there. MGM Plus, I watched it like through my cable. But yeah, it's in a few different places.
you
And I
could
think
probably get
you
it
can
on
rent it.
DVD at the library.
I'm sure, like, I think Airplane, yeah, is enough of like a
Yeah,
big classic that you could probably get it from the library on DVD for sure.
I would think
Yeah.
for those of you who still have DVD players.
Yes, I do. I
Yep,
bought a
me
thing for
too.
my laptop so I could play DVDs.
I did the same thing. So when we started this, so some movies I could get on a DVD and I could play it
Hmm.
on the laptop.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said. For me, it was the first time seeing Leslie Nielsen funny. But for you, that's
This is
this
the
is
only
like
version of
the only
Leslie Nielsen
version
I
of him that
know.
you know. Yeah. But this was the beginning of it. So
Yeah.
oh, I wanted to mention too. Also, Peter Graves, who played Captain Over,
Hmm.
his brother was James Arness, who was Matt Dillon in Gunsmoke.
Oh,
That was his older
cool.
brother. So they used different names, because of the Hollywood thing. But yeah, they were
Hmm.
brothers. So
Yeah. Yeah. Arness was their real last name.
yeah.
Spelled a
So
little different. But yeah, that's cool. Definitely some like I said, Lloyd Bridges being here and like his relation to
mm-hmm.
uh
The
Bo and Jeff
Jeff.
and all that. So, but I think this is this is one of those movies that I think is like I was talking about the movies that like I grew up watching in this sort of like Judd Apatow era and like Will Ferrell and like Ben Stiller and like all of those people. Like I don't think that some of those movies exist without things like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I think this is sort of foundational comedy movie.
Right. It doesn't rely so much on, it's not slapstick comedy, but it's
Hmm.
the wordplay, like you said, and then also the running gags,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
throughout the movie, and then also the sight things, just the
Hmm.
sort of making not yeah, I guess sort of poking fun at traditional stuff in a
Yeah.
sort of off kilter way.
Yeah. And I think like the silly wordplay
Oh
and stuff
God.
like that, like the being very literal,
Yes.
and things like that, right? Like I think that makes me think of like, I don't know, like in Zoolander when they show him the model for his literacy center and he's like, what is this, a center for ants? You know?
Like, why is it so small?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that like this movie and like the Mel Brooks movies that we've watched, like those are kind of like that's
Hmm.
what like the people whose comedies I watched growing up, like that's what they watched growing up. So it is interesting to see like these things and how they maybe influence like the things that I grew up watching too.
That's a good point. Yeah, I would think. Yeah, so it could everything builds on
Mhm.
the people that before them, and then so
Yeah.
with these, yeah, these are like when I saw this when it first came out, everybody just thought it was a goofy movie, and then
Hmm.
46 years later down the road, it all of a sudden now it's an institution, and it's like this you know building block or whatever you want to say, like the baseline for
Hmm.
comedies, but it's when we see a movie come out now, we don't know what the audience or what the history is going to be like 40
Hmm.
years from now.
Yeah.
Well, you will. But you know what I mean. It's like,
Yes.
we don't know how how the future or how that will play down the road.
Hmm.
you know I hope that someday somebody will look back on The Winter Soldier like you
Hmm.
and like it like you and I do, but also say, oh, well, this is a new movie to me. I didn't see it when it came out X amount of years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's true.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
true.
So anyway, so. Well, good. I'm glad you like it, and I hope that other people, if they haven't seen it, give it a watch. It's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
funny, it's light. There's so much to like look at and see and hear and like I think it can appeal to like do you like puns and wordplay? Do you like sight gags? Do you like sort of slightly vulgar humor? You know, like there's a little bit of everything in there.
there he is.
So, um
Um,
yeah, I think
or
it's
if you
worth
like
checking out.
Leslie Nielsen, or
Mhm.
Robert Hayes. I don't know if he's done anything recently. Or you said Julie has done some work, Julie Haggerty, but
Yeah. Yeah, I think like people my age will probably recognize her from some other movies.
okay.
Um but now she's playing like people's mom and stuff.
Well, yeah, that's
Makes
because
sense.
she's yeah, makes sense because she's a few years older than I am, so she's in her 70s, I think now.
Hmm.
So
Well, yeah. So check out Airplane if you haven't seen it. If you haven't watched it in a while, watch it again.
yeah, it'd been a while since I'd seen the whole movie all the way through, so it was
Hmm.
it and it delivered as usual to me. So
Yeah. Yeah. And it's always fun for me. Like I've heard lines, I've seen like bits and pieces, images. So like having it all together is always nice. So everybody
that's what
check it out.
I like about movies that you recommend and suggest that I've only heard of or seen little clips of every now
Hmm.
and then watching the whole movie, and I'll go all the way back to our first episode, and I'll let round it up. But Spice Girls, I knew who
Hmm.
the Spice Girls were. I knew
Hmm.
about the movie, but I'd never seen the movie, and that was a fun, cute movie. And like you looking at this movie, I looked at that and I saw people I knew, and I saw, but the it was a good movie. It was,
Hmm.
it was fun to watch. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's what I enjoy about our process, is that we get to see
Exactly.
movies that, maybe we didn't see when it first came out, but we get to appreciate them now.
Hmm.
And hopefully our
Agreed.
listeners will.
Yes. Try something new, everybody.
Yeah, yeah. If this
Um,
isn't your cup of tea, maybe try it. And then, you
mhm.
know,
Yeah.
what was the old commercial? Try it, you'll like it.
Yeah. Was that for
Like
kicks or life?
life
Mikey, he
cereal.
likes it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, try it. You'll like it. So, all right. Well,
Alrighty. Well, thank you all for listening. Please be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to this so you can get our episodes delivered to you every Monday when they come out. Please leave a rating, review, or a comment. Hopefully, it'll be a nice one, or else.
we'll let Otto fly your plane.
Yeah, exactly. We'll give you some of the fish from this airplane.
Oh,
You can follow us on Instagram at Some of Our Parts Pod. You can see all the movies that we've talked about so far. This is episode 115, so there are plenty, and you can find something that you like. You can see little previews of what's to come the day before a new episode, and whatever else we decide to share that comes across our feed. And with that, bye bye.
take care.